Sophia Willits, founder of Learning Apartments. Why Learning Apartments? The reason why I created this course is because I wanted to give everyone, whoever wanted to be financially free, whoever wanted to create a real estate empire, to provide an opportunity to get there faster through multifamily. If you're a new real estate agent, syndicator, an investor, or a wholesaler trying to get brokers to want to work with you and to find an off-market apartment, that can be a whole nother challenge on its own, especially when you're starting with little money or no money, or maybe you don't even have the reserves to even get started. Or if you've never been able to raise capital on your own or find really amazing multifamily deals. Did you actually know that 90% of multifamily deals are actually traded off market? Have you ever experienced difficulty getting a broker to even want to work with you if you've never even done a deal or can actually prove to them that you can actually close? How do you expect to get the best opportunities? Another big challenge when you're getting started is that typically commercial brokers will only represent one side. So that means that they're only representing one side of this transaction. And they're not always going to be honest when they do a pro forma, provide correct financials on the deal you actually may be looking at. Pro formas can be tricky. They can also be terribly wrong with inaccurate sales and rental comps. If you're not careful, you could put yourself in a position going based off of the broker's numbers and what they're telling you about the property and what they think the market should be, which in fact is really not the case. Most institutional brokers typically keep all their listings exclusively in-house, which means that they don't share their listings with the public. So if you're brand new to the game, or an agent, investor, wholesaler, just trying to get started, especially as a new syndicator, most brokers won't give you the time or day. This is why I wanted to show you how to use the tools, strategies, subscriptions, underwriting software, and how to market yourself so you're able to get the best multifamily deals on your own. My course will actually teach you how to protect yourself and your assets when it comes to investing in multifamily. The market has changed a lot. Real estate markets occur in cycles. And when you watch those cycles for as long as I have, you'll recognize patterns. With rising interest rates on loans, inverting rents, and increasing vacancies, being able to refinance or reposition a larger property may not be possible. Not able to see the patterns has caused many syndication groups and investors to pay above market price and over-leverage themselves with short-term debt. When it comes to a refinance, many groups will have large capital calls and higher refinancing rates. This results in unaffordable monthly payments, and in most cases, this means that the groups may have to sell the properties at a significant loss. During this changes season, I believe we're going to see the biggest transfer of wealth most of us will ever see in our lifetime. A lot of groups right now are actually upside down on their properties, and they won't be able to refinance without having to put more money down, raise money, or able to keep their properties. How is the biggest transfer of wealth going to impact you and your family? Learn now with a one-of-a-kind course that actually teaches you how to get multifamily with or without a broker. My apartment flips, I have earned up to a 500% return on my investments. Did you actually know that smaller apartments ranging from the 2 to 100 unit range typically actually trade every 18 months or less, or even as much as 2 to 3 times a year, compared to larger institutional deals which trade every 2 to 15 years? This happens to be the most lucrative and fastest changing real estate in the marketplace. If you want to take control on your future, multifamily is the fastest way you can get there. Let me show you how to take 10 years off the learning curve through my course, Learning Apartments. Let me show you through real life examples how deals are actually done with having little to no experience. By the way, you don't have to have a degree in business or finance to underwrite a property. You don't even need to know how to use Excel or a spreadsheet. Even if you've never underwritten a property, you'll still be able to properly analyze a deal if you use the right software, even with no experience underwriting. I've partnered with a software company to create Pro Underwriter, which allows you to underwrite deals as quickly as 30 seconds, so you never miss out on an opportunity again. I want to teach you how to protect your assets and your asset. Learn how to actually get better returns, less risk, when you're able to underwrite and understand true rental comps and sales comps as good as the best brokers. And finally, learn how to perform due diligence, negotiate a successful close on off-market properties you actually want. My story actually started in 2013 when I was 30 years old. I only had $343 in my savings account, and I was putting groceries on credit cards. After recovering from a nasty recession, I decided to go all in on real estate. I got my real estate license, hung it with a small multifamily brokerage. Within 10 days of getting my license, I made my first transaction happen and sold my first fourplex for my client. My first year actually was able to sell 24 buildings. I was able to grow as a multifamily broker, averaging over 1,000 transactions in the past decade. In 2019, me and my husband chose to invest in ourselves and actually open up our own commercial real estate brokerage called Grace CRE. We wanted to create a work environment that brought grace to commercial real estate. Now, that might seem like an oxymoron, but I actually wanted to put our clients' needs first, which requires us the best marketing strategies possible for their properties. We actually work with other agents so that we could actually net them the highest returns for their multifamily assets. And along the way, we've been able to break records in the marketplace for our clients. Additionally, I decided to actually help teach a real estate investing group how to get into multifamily. One of the wholesalers of the group actually brought me my first off-market deal. I knew I could make money as a broker, but this time I decided to buy the deal for myself. Instead of only making $20,000 in commission, with my knowledge and experience, I closed the transaction with a hard money loan. Within a short 6 weeks of closing this deal, I was able to put the property back on the market, sell it for cash, and I made $375,000 in profit. As you might imagine, I continued to flip properties, but I did it through my self-directed pension plan. So I was able to grow my initial investment of only $90,000 and turn it into over $6 million in 2.5 years. Over time, I realized only being a broker and giving away my deals for 2 to 3% commissions actually costed me being able to make several hundred millions of dollars of profits as an investor if I hadn't given all my deals away. Now you don't have to go through these hard lessons alone. You can take the courage that you can do this. Your mindset is the only thing that limits you. I want to show you the lessons that I have learned along the way, so it won't take as long for you to get there. Now we have a way to get you there and create the life you want to have for your future. For my husband, getting to work with my best friend every day and growing our relationship. To our children, that you can actually create the life you want to have by having your money work for you. To show our students that they can create this for their families and to grow a stronger community for a better tomorrow and for us to actually get there faster. So if you finally want to get into multifamily, if you finally want to become financially free, this course is for you. It's never been created before, and I hope you can be part of it. Take the first step to financial freedom today. Where to start? Benefits of having a real estate license versus unlicensed. One of my favorite benefits of being licensed are knowing contract law, which allows me to protect myself and my clients in a real estate transaction, and the purchase contract. What do I mean when I say contract law? I'm trained by the state that I am licensed to know contracts inside and out, which allows me to represent myself and my clients. Having a license also allows me to get compensated when I buy and sell my own properties and also when I represent other clients in their transactions. I am basically like a real estate attorney with our AAR contracts, which is crazy to think that I could be held to such a high standard, as little as 90 to 120 hours of real estate school. 2 to 3 weeks and you are done. And you can get paid to know real estate law. Not only will you know real estate law, you'll have access to the most powerful subscription of MLS and, in our state, monsoon tax records in Arizona. This is only available to NAR members who are a National Association of Realtors. Most commercial brokerages will not have to follow the standard because they are not NAR members and they do not have to follow Code of Ethics, which is a guaranteed payout of a co-broke to a buyer's agent. It's really important to know how the multifamily game works so you can come better prepared and know how to play to win more deals. Let's start with CoStar. By far, it's the most powerful tool for commercial real estate. As an investor or a licensee, you can look up all commercial types of properties: retail, industrial, land, apartments, office space, and other purpose used. You could have a nationwide account that will show you all markets if you want to see it. Or if you want to start in your backyard, quote unquote, your current location is something you might want to get started to get to know the better trends, and it tends to be a better place to start. So you can start recognizing commercial and multifamily patterns within the changing markets. Larger institutional brokers typically only keep more of their listings exclusively for their benefit, not sharing them with other brokers, as you would see on other sites such as the MLS and LoopNet or in Crexy. So you can see who are the top sellers and buyers and syndication groups with CoStar. You can also see sales comps, rental surveys, and the average returns and pricings per unit and under construction units in your direct market. It's like having the commercial MLS, but not having to be licensed. We'll go over parceling and mapping, apartment types, how real estate compares to other asset classes, financial capital, money and credit, cash flow, net operating income, NOI, time value of money, and cap rate. Their valuation off the cost approach was $7 million. The sales comparison approach was 7.2, and the income capitalization approach was $7,150,000. You will also need to know the risks of a master tenant versus an economic tenant. Knowing the rent and the benefits for you will be able to choose you how you want to be able to lease your apartment buildings. The MLS comps are where licensees and property managers typically advertise their properties for rent and offer small concessions for a lease. It's easy to see when you run the past 6 months to a year to focus on the certain unit mix and also the building type. Now, larger apartment complexes, bigger loan programs like $5 million plus loans can go through government assured loans, which is Freddie and Fannie and HUD. You can actually get the best terms and rates depending on the asset. They can be as little as 20% down and sometimes even 100% financing. They can also provide the rehab. That's incredible. Now let's talk about timeframes. For closing commercial loans, they can close as quickly as typically 45 days. But typically we need at least 60 to 75 days. Things can be delayed due to requests. Items and lenders need to be able to close on time. Here's a few items that commercial lenders are dependent on to be able to actually provide the financing. Appraisers can take 3 to 4 weeks. Surveys can be 30 days plus. Environmental reports can be over 60 days. So not giving yourself enough time in your contract, you won't be able to close. So putting auto extensions from like 15 to 30 to 45 days if needed by the lender is a great way to cover your asset and also your clients or your investor. Not giving yourself or your client enough time in this process could cost their entire earnest deposit and additional deposits after that. You might want to consider doing a reverse exchange. It costs more money to do a reverse exchange, but what happens if you get into a situation, you sell your property, and you don't find something that you like in time? Well, wouldn't it be easier if you actually found a property beforehand that you really like and you really want to exchange into before you actually sell your property? Sometimes selling your property and then forcing yourself to buy something you don't want because you're trying to meet the 1031 exchange
timeframes might not be the best option, or you're paying too high in a upmarket in an area that you don't necessarily want to be in. So sometimes doing a 1031 exchange makes a lot of sense, and sometimes it doesn't. Let's talk about how to analyze. I analyze a deal based off of the current situation and location. The location will make or break your flip. And when you're looking to trade your units, what will they trade for per unit? And also, what will they be able to rent for? When analyzing, you want to see how long the leases are in place. This can be the biggest factor when you're able to do a flip on a property, and in the time frame that you need. Depending on the state, you may not be able to even give notice, even though the tenants are month to month. If you're in the state that allows to give a notice to vacate, this can be a huge help. When wanting to flip apartments, you need to know how long the timing's actually going to be. How long will it take to start your project? Also, when you're offering on apartments, you want to make sure that they do not renew any of your leases unless you have an agreement that they can renew, or that the new lease must be month to month, or how long you want to be able to approve the lease for, and the amount. This will absolutely 100% affect your exit strategy. If the seller rents a unit or locks in a rate, that could actually harm your exit for your flip.
Hi, we are here walking a fourplex, and how do we come up with pricing when things don't go right with contractors? I sold this building actually in August of 2022, but now after the completed renovation, we're gonna have to walk and actually get things corrected before we can actually execute a much higher sales price. Let's go ahead and take a walk through and take a look.
Setting the standards to set yourself apart from the market is important. So if you decide to farm or do a mail, you must never quit. Another big thing to consider when you're doing a mailer is, should you mail a 100+ unit apartment building? No, the actual seller will not actually get your piece of mail. It's generally owned by a REIT or institution firm that has no interest in working off of some letter or script on getting them to use you to sell the property or sell directly with you. Hiring the right professional for the right asset type. So let's start with the big boys, I like to call. So when you're dealing with larger institutional type assets like 100+ units, maybe it's even 50, you want to hire a higher end brokerage. So for example, CBRE is great for that. So managed properties and portfolios. So they do like a service like maybe bigger, larger portfolios, say you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of units. They offer all these services so that way you can actually grow and be able to raise your rates and increase your actual returns. Let's go over one of the most important parts of any type of contract is the protective provisions. When you have representation in a contract with a broker or an attorney, you may have very standardized boilerplate language that is used in as a licensee, our standardized contracts, depending on how your license is in your state. They are very neutral and will outline agency and who's representing or representation of themselves. If you have an attorney representing one party to a contract, it will be outlined and only favor one party. So if you want the greatest protective provision, it is advised to get a broker or even the highest level, an attorney. Let's go over buying and holding apartments. This, in my opinion, is the fastest way to create long-term wealth and legacy for generations to come. When acquiring apartments, when starting out, you can buy with leverage. And buying with leverage means that you can acquire more doors instead of having all your cash into one asset. With the rising costs of inflation, living expenses, and taxes, there is no greater tool than having your apartments leveraged. So you can create a huge tax shelter of your income, and it keeps on coming. So that way you can actually write it off with all the interest payments as well. You can also depreciate. So in a way, you can literally live tax-free.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Sophia Willits, and I'm actually here in the heart of Scottsdale on a real deal that we made $1.2 million, and we had a record-breaking price per unit at $575,000 a door, which is absolutely unheard of for 900 square foot units, which is insane. But I want to go ahead and show you how we actually negotiated and got this deal done. One thing you need to know when it comes to negotiating, since you might or may not be licensed, like myself, I actually partnered up with one of my agents, Michael Gordon, and we actually took down this deal with only 10% down, which is absolutely unheard of. We bought the property for $905, 10% down, and guess what? Since this building was actually on the MLS, we actually got a 3% co-broke all back to us. So not only did we buy this property for $905, we actually got $27,000 back to be able to pay ourselves to start the renovation. We closed the property in just 30 days, and we even convinced our tenants to move out early. They're all on 30-day leases anyway, so we could actually speeded up the process a little bit more. We put about $300,000 into the property, and as you can see, this building used to look like this one. We had it under construction for about 6 months, and we were able to sell it in only 4 days to an all-cash investor. $575,000 a unit, a $2.3 million sales price. I am super excited to show you more deals and more opportunities that we have also done. I just want to kind of show you, we kind of made a joke about it, Operation Avalon, and let me kind of show you why. So not only are we gutting the units, we're really like getting in there. I didn't realize the extent that we're actually doing until I actually did a walkthrough today, which is kind of a little bit crazy, but super excited that we're actually getting rid of all the mold, and you can actually see how bad these pipes are, which are really, really bad. And all the ductwork and all the mold that was actually behind the walls, so we had to remove the drywall, so we don't want anybody living like that, but I'm super excited to teach you how to flip apartments and make an incredible return. Hi, I'm Sophia Willits, and I'm here in Old Town Scottsdale with a brand new listing hitting the market at $1.795. I sold another building just behind us for $450,000 a door. Since we put it on the market, $153,000 a unit. First, I want to give a special announcement for one of my dearest friends and partners that's here tonight, friend Jamil and my wonderful partner. He wanted to come out tonight. He saw it when it was like a complete mess or rehab here, so.
First and foremost, I came to this property when Sophia had just purchased it and she was just beginning the renovation at this. And interestingly enough, it's in that first meetup, Sophia and I sparked a friendship. That friendship turned into a business partnership. That business partnership immediately, I think within 48 hours, we were in a deal together. That deal turned into a $400,000 payday. And so this is the power of networking. This is the power of showing up to situations and opportunities like this and being open to receive. I could be walking around and things like this and think that I know everything, which I absolutely do not. I'm learning. I am a student, and I'm learning from great people that know what they're talking about. So as I had said earlier, Sophia and I got into a partnership and we did our first transaction. We made $400,000 on one deal. We knocked it out of the park, home run, wouldn't you guys say? Yeah. And I was extremely grateful for being with Sophia in that deal. That's why I'm standing here telling you right now that when you are in business, know who you are in business with. Understand their level of heart for you and what you're trying to accomplish. I will never question Sophia. I will never question where she is, where her loyalty is, where her heart is, and what she is capable of taking on, the level of hit that she would take for people that she loves and for people that she's in business with. So as you guys are making your rounds, talking to folks today, find your Sophia. Find your Sophia. I love you, sister. I love you, sister.